So I'll start with one that is from my newest book that I very rarely read at readings, but I wanted to today, and it's called Winter, because I find myself thinking in terms of before and after, and I think back at this winter and sometimes wish it was still winter before January 20th or before that even. So this is called Winter. I want what is still winter, root-bound, hunkered down, hibernating in the mossy walled air between death and birth, the dreaming between the in-breath and the out-breath of the seasons, the early bloom of acacia, too yellow, too soon, against the brutally clear sky. She is not coming back this time, and that fact is a heavy jacket I've worn overlong, wrapped around my skin, too pale, too thin for sun. I want what's raw, blistered, blasted open. I want to know the death of things intimately. Those 3 days in the tomb, the time of bloat and worm, before the green fuse and bloom, that space where someone, something once was, no longer is. I want to look into the face of empty grief and ending, to not flinch or look away, to run my fingers one last time along the cheek of who I so loved and lost, to know that I was not the reason for her leaving, watch her form receding into fallow field and frost, become the violet mist that rises from the frozen earth then disappears. I want to walk through the open door between the in-breath and the out-breath of the seasons, to stand in that terror of solitude and stillness, to shudder with the violent birthing. So who knows what will birth through all of this. And this is my book Antarctica, which was, I mean, no, this is Unrequited, which was published by Eugene's own Uttered Chaos Press. I guess you can buy it through Uttered Chaos or Amazon. Yeah, so that's my first book. And I'll read something, I mean, that's my second book. I'll read something from my first book, Antarctica, which was published years ago. And this is about spring. It's called Barn Swallows. Barn swallows never rest. Like the blue sky, they are always moving. At 3 in the morning, mockingbirds' pure language of sadness keeps us awake. The way leaving the womb is sorrow, only more melodic. Big Dipper spills a galaxy of starred jasmine onto the roof, moon weaving light through latticework, a riot of roses. In the distant, the sinister nocturne of traffic. Highway 1 veers away from sea, snaking valley and river's jugular. Church chimes charm the dreamer, save the sailor, drown the savior. When the sea is angry, she pounds her head against the cliffs. I want your lips, your rosebush, sweet thorns of desire, the inevitable fog, a night blank and incandescent as snow. I want to know where the traffic's going, why the mockingbird tortures us with unquenchable peace. I want to test your faith in the benevolence of stars. Like barn swallows, you never rest. You are always moving. And that's Antarctica. Let's see. I'll read another one from Unrequited. And this is a true story. It's called The Goldfish. I was thinking this morning about the need to belong to someone or something, some gang, tribe, church, Elks Club, or dysfunctional family. To call someone partner, best friend, millstone, sweetie, or even the person I love whom I wish I didn't. When I say belong to, I don't mean owned, tethered, dependent, or beholden, but the heart knowing it has a home and is free to come and go at any time. In my meandering this morning past PetSmart, not yet open, I noticed someone has left a goldfish in a jar of water by the door, like the proverbial baby left on the doorstep of an orphanage. I almost lose it in a fit of weeping, think even that tiny golden speck in a bowl needs something to belong to. Um, it feels really weird reading these, and I feel like lost in space. Summer, I went to a circus. It was a local circus, and you think when you go to a circus, people are going to be happy, and the clowns are going to be smiley, and the people who work there are going to be all happy. Everybody was sullen and looked like they were hungover and didn't want to be there, like they had gone out drinking the night before and showed up to the circus hungover. And I went with a friend and I said, if I had kids, I would never take them to a circus. So this was about that. It was called If I Had Kids. If I had kids, I wouldn't take them to the circus. There are enough scary clowns in real life. In real life, when you fall, you don't bounce back with a boing. You break a bone. In real life, you don't juggle balls or bowling pins, but 2 or 3 jobs: cooking, cleaning, laundry, shopping, and how to keep everyone happy while making yourself disappear. If I had kids, I wouldn't take them to the skating rink. Eventually, they will lie anyway, say that's where they're going, when really they're going to a rave or a tailgate party. If I had kids, I wouldn't take them to Great Adventure or Disneyland. I'd take them to a stockyard or slaughterhouse. Let them see how Mickey Mouse is a cartoon myth and how real animals suffer. If I had kids, I'd tell them which recreational drugs are medicine, which ones are poison, and always, always call if you need a ride home. I wouldn't take them to a Hollywood blockbuster movie, but to a museum or art gallery, maybe a Salvatore Dali, Andy Warhol, or Frida Kahlo exhibit, a slam or poetry reading. If I had kids, I'd take them to a church, temple, mosque, redwood forest. Ask them, where does God speak to you the loudest, if at all? Tell them to return there often. If I had kids, I wouldn't take them to the aquarium, but to the ocean. Tell them to jump in. I'd say, this is your real mother, this big blue heaving body. Let her hold you close. She will never disappoint you the way I might. She will always keep you afloat. Let's read that last. I'd rather be an amusement park than a museum. I'd rather be an amusement park than a museum, a wild ride that feels dangerous but isn't, as long as you stay seated and keep your hands to yourself. A place where you can gorge yourself on cotton candy or waffle cones. Feel the sweetness dripping down your chin, a game of bumper cars where bodies collide, a haunted house where all the skeletons in my closet are a trick done with mirrors, and a ring toss where maybe if you're lucky and you aim right, you can win the fuzzy stuffed animal that is my heart. How am I doing with time? Okay.
You have, Patty, you have plenty of time. You have
Okay.
20, 25 minutes, and you started
All right.
10 minutes ago. So
All right. So,
8 minutes
okay.
ago. So you're good.
Thank you. Okay, what God sounds like. God sounds like the lilt of Billie Holiday, one note behind the beat, as if she were stepping off a curb into oncoming traffic, crossing Broadway against the light. God sounds like the blood-red trill of a cardinal against a backdrop of snow, or inebriated Russian gypsies singing along to an accordion in a Lower East Side bar way past the hour of last call, the air vibrating with Cyrillic notes of sweat, whiskey, and cigarettes. Or maybe God sings a lullaby in the velvet melody of clarinet and cello. Or God has strep throat and is singing badly along with bagpipes and banjo. God is the crunch of car crash on an 8-lane highway, or just a fender bender of 2 taxis stopping suddenly as Billie Holiday crosses Broadway against the light. God is the chorus of crickets on a humid summer night, or subtle grind of a secondhand circumnavigating a clock, slow etch of lines on an aging face, sound of starlight traveling light years through space, trying desperately to reach us. So this was written from, the prompt was my constellation. My constellation is roadkill. What didn't make it across the highway? Slow deer startled in headlights, rabbit frozen in mid-leap of rigor mortis, kamikaze chipmunk, squirrel tumbling from wire like a furry Walenda, fallen stars on asphalt, bodies flattened to matted fur, gristle, bone powder sucked into black hole gullet of vulture and crow. Soul rises up into the blue steam of the blood's last heat, swirls into the silky light of the Milky Way. In the northern sky, my constellation bleeds between the planets, butcher and taxidermist. Each star is a wild thing that died in me from a perilous crossing or a reckless timing of a stunted journey. Shy animal inside me, frozen in the headlights of its own brightness or folly. I wonder what supernova or galaxy I'd be if I could recompose myself, connect the dots of my scars, become whole, if I could just get out of my own way. Um, where's the book? Okay. So, do you remember years ago there was the comet? It was the Hale-Bopp comet. How long ago was that? Like 20 years ago? I mean, think of what we've lived through in this lifetime, like comets and earthquakes and locusts and viruses. And so just in one lifetime. So this is called Comet. Hale-Bopp, hairball of the sky, harbinger of miracle and millennium, fuzzy navel of the night, we marvel at your light by naked eye and lens. When you return, we will all be bleached bones. What's the matter with that duck? So my friends and I have a secret spot by the our local river here. And one time I was there with a friend and this duck would not stop quacking. And this poem came from that duck. What's the matter with that duck? A friend and I are lounging by the river on a hot summer afternoon. Our conversation interrupted by a female mallard roaming up and down the opposite bank, quacking incessantly. It's not a help something big is intending to eat me kind of quack, but more plaintive and desperate. Even the group of boys yelling and throwing rocks at each other stop and listen. One kid says to no one in particular, "What's the matter with that duck?" Still quacking, she swims around a bend into a cluster of bay laurel, reappears moments later with 4 ducklings trailing behind her. We realized then that she'd misplaced her babies, most likely forgetting where she left them while she foraged for insects and minnows, not unlike a human who mistakenly leaves an infant in the back seat of a hot car. But this story has a happy ending. The mallard preens her ducklings, who are sunning themselves on a boulder. The boys wander upriver, still yelling and throwing stones at each other. My friend and I continue our conversation about why we never had children as we rummage our bags for handfuls of popcorn and grapes. We can almost feel the late afternoon shade of trees gently caressing the face of the river. I sometimes walk by the river in the evenings, and there have been, thank you, there have been groups of ducks with their little ducklings and geese with goslings, and it's just so happy. It just makes me so happy to see that, because it just reminds me that nature is going to keep going whether or not we do. And just to see like these baby ducklings, it's just heartwarming. So this is called Escape Hatch. It was the year I quit cigarettes, alcohol, peanuts, popcorn, dairy, gluten, sugar, and romances that went nowhere. Gossip, caffeine, and feeding stray animals were my last remaining vices. Everything once elixir, sacrament, medicine became noxious, toxin, venom. Even the lover who once tread a path through the weeds to the garden of my body became a stranger, though often I still fiended for her. What doesn't kill you sometimes doesn't make you stronger, just makes you a stranger to those you thought were friends. Those who left me stranded after I jumped ship of my addictions. It's hard to stay while being flayed open, alone, every weakness, flaw, raw nerve exposed. The body repairs itself of collateral damage, but the heart demands a sacrifice of something we loved and thought we couldn't live without. Cigarettes and tequila, for instance, pass empty, or a lover's body to blanket the skin of melancholy I was born wearing, or even the stray animal inside me who wants to be fed by someone else. It was the year I plugged up my escape hatches, threw my crutches into a ditch, let myself be held by the beautiful hands of a wind I am learning to lean into. Um, so ever since this virus, I found some of those escape hatches again, because how can you not? Um, I'll just read a couple more. Where is it? The Leaving. So this was inspired by a friend's prompt, and the prompt was, the hard moment you stay in the room with me but are gone. Even before you gather your clothes from the floor, I feel you already out the door. Something shifts in the room like a wind that harbingers absence and leaving, as if we are always on the edge of autumn. All the endearments that felt lush with meaning while whispered in bed fade to dust. Sweet nothing's no longer sweet, just nothing. What seemed like pearl is only sand, what you crushed into the carpet as you put on your boots. The soft pools of your eyes ice over as if you are already thinking of another lover. What felt hot and velvet hardens into a night so cold and obsidian. I slam my palm on that darkness, trying to touch your face one last time. But already you've blended into past tense, your face a half moon in the streetlight, your bootsteps heavy on the stairs. The wind bothers the hinge of the gate you closed behind you. It sounds like someone crying. And I'll read one more. This was a request from Joanne James, and it's my one plague poem, a virus poem that I thought that I would read. It's called Starling Sky. In first light, scattershot storm of jasmine, God's perfume, nectar scent, wall of birdsong, bush tit, chickadee, bloom of sweet pea, iris, lily, opium poppy, sunflower, daffodil. In almost evening, a starling sky, that murmuration, fast-moving cloud of black, not locust or pestilence, but bird brain, group mind. Rewind time, December, before the world went viral, before the lover left my bed for the last time, before leaves fell and the trees were a riot of rust, yellow, and the gatherings of dust crows, half notes and grace notes before night roost, before and after. When going to the store for bread, candles, a bag of oranges was not an ordeal of face masks and sanitizer. When we were not afraid to stand body to body or breathe the air between us. We wait in long lines, navigate a new etiquette, that murmuration of dark fear, group mind. Crickets still sing to stars that bloom in eggshell blue of April sky. When this war is over, I will take a stranger by the hand and kiss her on the mouth. Thank you.